purpose of this second session is to present a little bit what EventWorks can do in terms of accreditations. And as it is a general session and an introduction, we're not going to go extremely deep, so we can do other sessions or webinars later if necessary. And we're going to cover 3 items that are related together. The first one is accreditation. The second one is badging, because the final output of the accreditation process is a badge, an accreditation badge that people are wearing. And the third one that we are going to touch is access control using our apps. So let's start with accreditation setup. You have a sidebar here. We're going into settings, so it's the orange bit here, and we are going to accreditation settings. So this is where you basically define everything in your accreditation module. So you have a couple of general settings with sub-menu here. I think we can skip the details about it and go straight to what we call the matrix. The example we took here is what we used for the boxing task force. So basically, a matrix is a kind of hierarchy and grid that describes everybody who is coming to your event. So you have what we call an accreditation type, an accreditation group, and an accreditation function. So you have 3 levels here, and you see a couple of data here. You can add new one, you can just move them around, and it is something that you are free to change at any time, because often you are operating your event, you're on site, you're 2 days before the opening session, and there's the LOC who is coming to you and telling you, well, we have a new bunch of people who need this kind of special privileges, can you quickly do that for us? And you either do it manually from the system, or you can just create a new function for the LOC. If you go to the LOC, this is the accreditation matrix we have defined. Every accreditation line has a code, and the code is very important because it is what we use as an identifier when you do custom imports. Meaning that if you have an Excel spreadsheet with 250 people that you want to insert into the system, either you put them everybody into one accreditation category, or you have a column into Excel where you put this code here, and this will automatically assign a default value. And for your accreditation badge, for every accreditation line, you have a background color and a font color that basically define how it's going to be displayed. So this is basically the first step, and it is also the first step in your accreditation process, which is basically defining who is going to come to your event, how you are going to categorize people. Second part, field setup. So we designed the page is loading. It takes a bit of time because it's a test server. We have defined the accreditation module to be completely flexible, meaning that every information that is here is an EventWorks field. So you can create as many fields as you want. In this case, we have defined this one here, and for every field, you have 2 different types here that are either a privilege or a venue. Venue is like the competition area, the training area, and privilege can be a zone, or if the person has a T1, T2, T3, has a voting right, and so on. So with this, you're free to add as many as you want on a per event basis. The accreditation value that is here, slightly grayed out, is what is going to be displayed on the accreditation. meaning that on the accreditation, I'm not going to display zone 2 because it's going to take an awful lot of place and it's going to look shitty. So I'm just going to show 2 here, and I can define which accreditation field is active or inactive. The reason why they are grayed out here is because we decided to lock what is being displayed once accreditations have been printed. But again, it's a setting. So first part that we saw is the matrix, which are everybody coming to your event. Then you have your accreditation field, and you put all of that together in your privileges. So in your privileges, what it does is that it takes a list of everybody that you had defined into the matrix, and you define the default value for each one of these categories here. This means that when a participant has his accreditation assigned, by default, he will have those privileges here. That doesn't mean that you can't change them. You can change them either in bulk or in person from settings, but it basically defines the default value. So we do that for privileges. And okay, I'm not going to save my change. And we do the same for venue access. There's a third element that we have not added for this demo, is what we call timed access. Because you have some accreditation that give access to a specific time, like only for the qualification part or for the final phase, or from the site building or dismantling. So you can also define the accreditation with date values. So what you see here is basically all it takes to set up your accreditation in the system. Linked to this, we are going to see 2 things now. We are going to see the result for a participant. I'm going to take my registration here. So I'm going to the participant list. I'm using the live filter, typing my name, going to my registration details, and I have created a tab called Accreditation. I'm going to clear my accreditation here. Okay, so what you see here is basically the matrix that we defined previously. So I'm going to select 2.7 IOC Boxing Task Force Wiz-Team staff. I'm saving. What the system is doing here is assigning the color that was defined in the accreditation matrix. If you remember, we had a background color and a font color. And by default, with my accreditation, I had access to zone red and the competition area and the training area. So this is what is going to be displayed on my accreditations. So when we were working on site with Antonella, who is in this webinar, and Silvina, we found out that with this accreditation, we had a lot of problems because when there were accreditation issues, we couldn't find people to either ask them questions or to validate a change because we didn't have access. So we upgraded our accreditation, and we did that by adding zone 2, 4, and 6. So all the specifics that you do are displayed in green, and everything that you remove, for instance, I have nothing to do in the training area because I'm not going to bother athletes. I'm going to click on it and remove it, and it's going to be displayed in red. So this is my updated accreditation. This is what you do on a per person basis, or you can do it in a bulk. What is also happening is that we can have an accreditation approval process. We can even manage it in a fairly complex way. What we did here to keep this demo simple is that every back office user can do anything. In reality, what is happening is that you would have an accreditation manager who needs to validate an accreditation, and the accreditation cannot be printed until it is validated. What we also do is that you can have functional or zones manager, meaning that zone 2, or let's say that I'm putting that I'm putting a blue access, we can say that there is someone, let's say Tim, who is in charge of the blue zone, meaning that everybody can give an accreditation to the blue zone, but only Tim can approve someone who has a blue zone. So it's possible to go extremely far with this. The system keeps also a track of all the changes that are done on an accreditation, who changed it, when, from where, what was the previous value, and what is the new value, so that if there's a problem or anything, you can trace back and see where the issue came from and make a decision on what you're going to do about it. So that's for accreditation. Now the end result of an accreditation here, of the accreditation process, is an accreditation badge. Let's start by creating the badges that Neo had designed for London. What you are going to see here is a design that Neo did by herself from the system without doing anything else. So it didn't require any development or anything. What we decided for this event is to create accreditation on an A6 piece of paper that we fold in two, and that we laminate on A6 lamination pouches. So you have different logos for different events. You have the front that is here with all the dynamic elements, and you have the back that gives you an explanation of all the elements that you have. Zone 2, athlete preparation area, Zone 4, press, broadcast, Zone 6, VIP lounge, field of play. I have the competition venue, and I removed myself from the training venue. To show you how this part works, I'm gonna go back into settings and go to badge template. I'm opening it in a new tab, and I created a simple badge template. So when you design your badge, you choose your paper format. You can create new ones. So it's going to be A6. That's the different dimensions, if there are margins and so on. And you can even save badges as templates if you want to reuse them across events. What is interesting is this part here. So here, that's our badge design part. What you have here is your A6 badge, and we are going to build a very simple one just to show the principle. I'm going to add an accreditation picture that I'm going to put here like this. I'm going to add a QR code that I'm going to put here. I'm going to add a field. I'm going to put here, and this field is going to be the first name. And here I'm going to add the last name. I can take fields, I can align them, I can group them, specify their dimension. I can make first name a bit bigger. I can take last name. I can say that they take the same length. So it's a little bit like a drawing piece of software. Here I'm going to add another field that will be the accreditation type. So I type type. I'm I'm going to take the accreditation type that I'm going to put here. I'm going for this one to change the fonts to put in Taoma size 22. I'm going to center it, and I'm going to say use accreditation color. The last thing that the two last things that I'm going to do so that we don't waste too much time here is that I'm going to add just the zone 2. So I'm going to make a field here. I'm going to say this is a width of 20 by 20. It's going to be in Taoma. It's going to be size 25. It's going to be centered. It's coming here. And the text color is going to be white. And the background color is going to be, hop. Okay, so, and here I'm going to add a custom image. Let me select a file. I'm going to pick up this image, validate, and here I'm gonna move these different elements. And this is my very simple badge. So what is happening here is that I can take my registration, I can click on create badge, I can take my demo badge and print it. What it is going to do is that it is, let me just correct it. This is supposed to be zone 2. Accred zone 2. Okay, this is my zone 2. So it is incomplete, it doesn't look very nice, but it's basically to show you how to create an accreditation badge using dynamic elements and within the system. So you can have one badge, one accreditation badge template for your event. You can have multiple ones. We use the badging module for a lot of other things. We use them to provide, for instance, luggage tags for our participants. Or if you have a general assembly or a meeting and you want to do nice nameplates on your table, that is what you would basically use. What is happening for that, it's a conscious decision that we made, is that the printers that we use for accreditation, basically we don't care about it because the output of the system is a PDF file. And we decided to do that as the default choice for EventWorks so that we can be printer agnostic, meaning that when you travel around the world, when you have a competition or an event in Africa or in a developing country, you're not always sure what kind of equipment printer you're going to have there. And depending on the size of your event and your budget, you are probably not going to bring 5, 10, 15 printers over there. So from the moment it is a PDF file, it can be printed on basically whatsoever. We do have clients and specific projects for whom we change a little bit the process and we connect directly EventWorks through a specific printer. This is basically what we are doing for the European Commission and European Parliament, who use our accreditation system for all their visitors. So if you come into the European Commission, you have a meeting and you go to the entrance and you get a badge. The badge is created by EventWorks, and we do between 1.6 and 1.7 million of these badges per year across 72 buildings. So it's a specific implementation that we did. But the default way is that we create a PDF file and you are free to print the PDF file the way you want it. EventWorks keep a log of everything that is happening here, meaning that you can see which user printed my accreditation. This is an accreditation we're using a lot for testing, so it's been printed multiple times. We can, of course, put a restriction to say accreditations cannot be reprinted, or accreditation can only be reprinted by a specific type of user. And you see here that you have a preview and printed, and this is also something that you see around here. That is because when you print an accreditation, it sets what you call a flag that say accreditation printed equal yes. And so that you know which accreditation you have already printed, so that you don't reprint 10 times the same accreditation. If you select preview, it means that you're doing some testing and it will not go to yes. So that's it about the accreditation printing part. Now the last element when we're talking about accreditation that we are going to cover even more briefly is what we call the access control. So there are different ways to do access control. You can do visual check, or you can do electronic access control, which give you a log of everything everything that is happening. This is done using an app that is on iOS and or Android, and it's what we are going to see right now. And go to our Gate app. So we define an access key to open the app. We enable access control. I'm not going to go into the details here because that's not the purpose of this short presentation. What you basically do is that you create operator. Let's say that Johan is going to be an operator. What I have not activated here for this demo is specifying which device can access the system and which one cannot. Then you define location. Location are basically either your venues or your zones, and you can link them with the accreditation system. So here, for this demo, I'm just going to create a second location that I'm going to call stadium entrance. For now, you can ignore the capacity of location. We use that for a couple of events, mostly when it comes to using the accreditation system for parking control, because you can have like 5 parking that we call P1, P2, P3, P4, and P5. P1 has a capacity of 400 people, so everybody who has an accreditation is entitled to use the parking. You put a security agent at the entrance exit and another one at the exit. They scan a QR code when people come in, they scan a QR code when people get out, and they have the information of their smartphone saying, sorry, P1 is completely booked, please drive 200 meters to go to P2 over there. So that's why we created this. So that's my stadium entrance. And here, push device. What it does is that it gives you a list of all the smartphones that are connected to the event and that are working for access control. So this is my Nokia that is here, and I'm going to do a little bit of demo on an iPhone. I can get the configuration of this phone here. The battery level is at 93%. I'm all good. This phone is online. That is the name of the phone. And here I'm going to update the configuration by say I'm going to use a QR code scanner. I'm going to work in location mode. I'm going to work from the stadium entrance. I'm going to display the picture. This one is going to work online. The system works in online and offline mode, and the operator is going to be Johan. So here I have my phone vibrating. I can't show you online how much it vibrates, but basically it is telling me that he received the configuration, and this is what is happening. Let me try a little something to see if I can share my screen. So you should see my screen here and my accreditation here. So I'm going to open the app. Here, the password for this session is orange, of course. So I select my operator, I'm Johan. I'm going to go to the location 1. And the system is now ready to be scanned. So you have 4 different ways to scan accreditation. You can use the built-in camera of your smartphone. If you have a low volume of people coming, you can use that. That is fine. The good thing is that everybody has a smartphone and you probably don't need to buy anything. You can use a QR code reader. You can read RFID tags if your mobile phone supports it, or you can do it manually from a list. So here, I'm doing it with the camera, and I'm going to scan the QR code. What it is doing is that it is showing the picture, it is showing my group, IOC, Boxing Task Force, and Broadcaster, and it's showing it green because my accreditation is validated. What is happening is that now I'm going to the details here, I'm going to access control, and here I see 1729, that was 1 minute ago. You have a log of everything that is happening with your scan and who has been scanned. You can also have what we call a watch list. Let's say that you have someone who is super VIP like Thomas Bach or Neo or someone like this. And what you can do is that when this person is scanned, it pushes a notification to someone. So if you have like a head of protocol that wants to be informed when the president of the USOC or the COC is coming, as soon as this person is scanned, that will trigger an email or an SMS to the person saying Neo has been scanned by Johan at entrance A. So now what is happening is that I go to the accreditation desk and I say, I was having a drink yesterday evening and I lost my accreditation. I forgot it at the bar. What you are going to do is that you are going to block the accreditation, saying he lost it again. And what is happening is that the accreditation is blocked, and it generated a new QR code, meaning that now if I scan again this accreditation, access denied, badge blocked. So everything is really happening in real time. You also have the possibility to have the devices working in an offline mode. There are a couple of restrictions, and we can talk about it in more details if you want. But basically, that's what I could show you in about 20-25 minutes to cover a basic accreditation setup, badge design and badge printing, and access control. Now Neo is going to take over and show you in a couple of reports the accreditations.
Okay, so if you can see what I am showing you right now, what we always face in an organizing committee when we do accreditations and we want to see the access rights is what I especially want to see is what everybody gets in an individual perspective. You saw how actually Johan assigned the functions, and you saw actually how Johan put the matrix in. So right now, what I'm gonna show you is how we actually assign, and by assigning, you will be able to see the different entitlements and reports. So for example, what you see here right now is a report that I have created, and you will be able to see every person's entitlements and zones in their picture as well, if necessary. So this again is coming back to what I had mentioned before, is a very useful tool, and it's part of the reporting tool. So if I'm gonna assign all these people to different, so all of them right now have functions already, volunteer protocol, volunteer general, and all these entitlements and accesses have been predefined before. But right now, what I want to do is I'm gonna change their entitlement, I'm gonna change their function. I'm gonna change them to the 3 of these. I'm gonna change them to a different function, which I'm gonna put them as LOC guest. So once I change all of them and I reload, they will automatically become, their accreditation function will be updated to volunteer LOC guest. You don't see it here because this is the function, and what I have actually changed is accreditation function, which is different. So, but you can see that these access for them has been updated based on the function of the LOC guest, which is white and 6. Now just imagine if you want to add a 2 to each of them. You again use the same approach. You do add or remove an accreditation privilege, and you say, I want to add 2, and you can add it. So if I refresh right now, the 3 of them will get 2. Similarly, if you want to remove as well, you can simply remove a privilege and you can remove it. So that's how easy it is for a user to handle the entitlements and the accesses. The same concept goes for a venue. Yes?
Sorry to interrupt. Just an additional bit of information. We're working on an update where you will be able to do that directly using inline editing, meaning that you will be able to just tick column 3, 4 directly on the report without going through a pop-up. That's an update that we're working on for this summer. Sorry.
No worries. I'm nearly finished. So what I wanted to show you is that this reporting tool that is very strong is able to provide you with this individual matrix that you can check for every person that you accredit and what exactly entitlements and accesses and venue zones that they get based on the report. And you create it on your own. So if you want to change it, for example, right now, I'm gonna put the accreditation function instead of the entries function because that's what they had signed up as. And I'm gonna put in the accreditation function. It is as easy as that for you to create a report and see what exactly is their accreditation function, which I changed previously to LOC guest. So that's what I wanted to show each and every one of you. The way that we manage the data and also to create reports like this in order to be able to track and to monitor everybody's access and entitlements. With regards to photo, as Danielle had mentioned, I will just quickly show you how to actually crop a photo directly in the report. And if you want to put a status, you can create a status for it, and you can create a field or a comment. And basically, you can then send this information to the person directly via email. So for example, right now, if I'm gonna crop some pictures, I simply put the edit on and edit off button, and I can immediately do this. I can crop the image and it's automatically updated. And here I'll be able to say approve or rejected. And if I would like to input some comments for it, I will add an additional field whereby I say photo rejected because that background is dark. And what I can do then, because of that photo rejection, I can send an email directly to that person to say that his photo needs to be resubmitted, for example. And I click send. Don't worry, this email is not going to be sent. But that's how easy it is to edit a photo. In terms of rotating, you have to go into the person's profile. And you can do a crop or a rotate. And you can rotate this like that. Now, another good feature is the download feature. What you have to do is to go to the participants page at the front. And for example, you find using the filters, I'm finding everybody who has the name test. When the system searches for it and you have 30 people, you click on select all, and you go into the first person, and here you go actions, download from result set, and this will trigger the system to download all of the pictures, or if you want to download the passports, and you can get it from the download page here, and everything is stored on this side. So you can see that I've downloaded all of the pictures here in recently. So that's how you download in bulk.